Welcome to the Primal Alternative podcast, featuring actionable tips from real people with real stories about real food. This show is presented by Primal health coach Helen Marshall, who empowers other paleo-loving, Thermomix-owning mums to start a sustainable, faff-free business of their own with the Primalista license. The Primalista license brings primal alternatives to the foods we love to our communities, making primal living more doable with less falling off the wagon. The Primalista license is available at www.primalalternative.com. And now, introducing your host, Helen Marshall.
Welcome to the Primal Alternative podcast. Today I am joined by the lovely Sue Joy, who is author of the cookbook, The Joyful Table. And I connected with Sue in our awesome Paleo in Perth community. If you're in WA and you're not part of that community, then definitely get on board, because it is a seriously cool group where we can all network together. I live down in Albany, which is about 6 hours away from Sue, but whenever I go to Perth, I've got this whole group of new paleo pals, and Sue's included, that I get to hang out with. And I saw Sue last week at Pete Evans's showing of The Magic Pill, which Sue and I both went to. And Sue very kindly gifted me a copy of her amazing cookbook, which I am delighted with and going through, and the kids are loving it. Cook this, make this. So welcome to the show, Sue. I'm so excited to find out your story.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Helen. And it was great to meet you in person last Wednesday evening. So it's good to see people on Facebook and hear them. And I've heard some of your podcasts, which were just wonderful.
Thank you.
But it's just nothing like actually meeting in person. It's just great.
Having a big cuddle. And it's funny because, and this is what I love about social media, is you know people before you meet them. So you went on first meeting, It's big hugs and oh, it's so nice to meet you, which is really, it's kind of a bit backwards, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. It's just opposite to how life normally was, but it's good, and it was so lovely to catch up with a lot of paleo people.
Yes, love it. I love it. So I am rapt to have you on the show, and we're going to delve into your personal journey, and you can tell us, what was happening health-wise with you that made you come to paleo. So we're going to start with that, but before we go there, let's start with what you had for breakfast.
Well, I had chocolate cinnamon chia pudding bowl for breakfast. Topped with some of my homemade granola on top of it and a few strawberries.
Delicious.
So I get my dose of cinnamon when I have that. That's really quick and easy breakfast. Just whiz it up in the blender. So you actually have a chocolate mousse for breakfast in one way, but you've got half a banana in it, coconut milk, you've got chia seeds in it, cinnamon, some mixed spice. I put a little bit of gelatin in it, and sometimes if I know it's going to be a busy day and I may not get all of my greens for the day, I put some spinach in, and you'd never know it's in there.
Wow. And
just whiz it in the blender into a bowl, sprinkle it with a few things on top, and eat it.
Wow.
And the cinnamon, I always get cinnamon in my day every day, because that all helps with leveling your blood sugars and helping metabolize your carbohydrates that you may get that day. So anyway, that was this morning.
That's a great little tip. So if people were thinking, I want to get some cinnamon in my life in terms of, for their blood sugars and helping them to metabolize their carbs, what sort of, are we looking at a teaspoon, or how much you reckon, Sue? You would have between 3 teaspoons would be the max in a day. So I always, every day I would get at least a teaspoon in it. It goes in my savoury cooking. It goes in my breakfast. It goes in lots of things. But I would probably have around 2 teaspoons a day. But you need to choose. Don't get me off on these things. We haven't even started. I'm not going to get off on cinnamon. We need to look at Ceylon cinnamon, not Cassia, which is really called the fake cinnamon. And the real cinnamon is Ceylon. So the fake is
much, much cheaper, or it might be called Chinese or Vietnamese cinnamon. And that will be probably what you'd get in the supermarkets because it's so much cheaper and easier to get. But I just ask if people could really try and search for the real cinnamon, which is Ceylon. And I buy big bags of organic online from iHerb. Whoops, giving a plug. Just as much cheaper, but you can get it. Yeah, here in Australia, you just need to search it out, and that's much better for you.
So is there,
Sorry,
I love these tips. This is great. So because I get Cassia because that's just what you get when you order cinnamon. They send you Cassia. So is there no health benefits to Cassia at all?
Yes, there are the same health benefits. Research has shown that you'll get the same health benefits with your blood sugar levels, helping with that, and helping. Cinnamon is an actual natural preservative. Oh. So when you eat it and you've got food that might not be the best food in your tummy, it could be, it's also antifungal, antibacterial. So even if you had some food that was a little off maybe and you had cinnamon with it, you should do okay. Now, Cassia does have similar benefits, not quite as high, but there is some side effects to Cassia. There is, I can't remember what it's called. I should remember it.
Well, sorry to put you on the cinnamon spot. We weren't going to talk about cinnamon, but what do you know?
So Cassia can be a little bit toxic in a certain area if you overdo it. So if you're having Cassia, don't go up to 3 teaspoons a day. Keep it, maybe just go 1 teaspoon a day. Yeah.
Top tips. That's awesome.
Okay.
All right. So that was it. Yeah, great. So we've learned about, we had a lesson in cinnamon and also got a new idea for breakfast, which is great because I know a lot of people that are new to paleo really struggle with breakfast and it very quickly gets sick of eggs. So that's a great one. And I know sorry, I don't mean to keep plugging your cookbook.
But that's not in my cookbook. That's on the website. That recipe, chocolate cinnamon chia bowl, is on my website under breakfast.
And what's
if anyone wants to find it.
Of course they do. What's your website address?
www.susanjoyfultable.com.
susanjoyfultable.com. Cool. And we'll put that in the show notes too, so people can just click straight there, which is so cool. So Sue, take us back to a time in your life when you were on the conventional wisdom, low-fat diet. How was that working out for you?
Well, I actually was on a low-fat diet for something like 18, 19 years. And avocado was the enemy. I loved avocado, but I could not put it on my plate. It was total fat.
Too fatty.
And the food that I actually went without was unbelievable. And because when I hear something, I believe it. If that's really good for me, I need to do that. And I don't go off track. I just all right, this is good for me, I do it. So I bought every book I could. The government said low fat was the best. So I changed all my way of cooking. And even instead of putting oil in with my onion and frying it, I would put some water in with my onion and fry it because I didn't want the fat.
Yeah.
That's how extreme I went. And then later on, my liver function test started coming back. Many years later, they started coming back with abnormal results. And I was having scratchy skin. I was having lots of problems. And then I had some testing done, and my liver function tests were ridiculous. And I had such bad fatty liver disease, and the doctors just could not work out. They took me off any medication they thought it would be, even anything like any normal painkiller from the grocery store, anything. I couldn't have anything, but it didn't improve. And so eventually, down the track, after 6 years of them not working out, I went to a specialist and had to have liver biopsy, which I don't do that, please. It's horrible. And the specialist then sent me to dietitians. They knew there was a link with diet, but they weren't sure. So I was sent to several different dietitians because nothing was helping. And they had me on a low GI diet, so lots of grains, lots of low-fat yogurts and all of those things. And they are the things I find out later not to have. They're the things that were making me more sick. So the specialist just gave up on me because there's nothing that they could do. They figured they'd tried everything. So eventually I found, I was managing chiropractic clinics at the time. So I was in the health industry and I had a very, very stressful job. Most of the time I was actually managing 2 clinics at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And I was having hormone issues, very stressful job. And I went to see a more holistic doctor about my hormones. So he did huge lot of tests. And of course, one was my liver coming back. You know, he got all those results back. And I go in to see him, and I think we're going to talk about my hormones, but he couldn't get past my liver tests. He goes, my goodness, you've got catastrophic fatty liver disease. He said, if you don't do something about this, you're going to lose your liver. And he said, you don't understand how bad it is. He said, you're too old to get a liver transplant. He said, you don't smoke, you don't drink. He said, but because of your age, I think I might have been like 56 or something then, I don't know. I'm 62 now. I don't know. It was age. And I'm thinking, sorry, I just gave away.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too.
I thought I was. Sorry, 62. So you think at 56, wow, they would at least give you a liver. But he said, no, you wouldn't get it. Someone younger, and it didn't matter if they were on drugs or what they were, just because they were younger. And so that was a real eye-opener to me.
Yeah.
And he said, we need to work on that before we do anything else. He said, because once you get liver disease, you get, the scar tissue that was forming would turn to cirrhosis of the liver, and then that was that. So he gave me a book by Dr. Sandra Cabot, and he said, I want you to take that home and I want you to read it. And it was about reversing fatty liver disease. So I went home, I read like crazy. And I started removing everything that she said, which was processed sugar, dairy, it was gluten, it was beans and high carbohydrate foods. So straight away I went on there and I went back to see him, and he saw improvement. And he goes, wow, you're really doing what that says. And I said, well, of course I am. And he goes, well, most people, you tell them something and they figure it's too hard, so they don't do it. And I said, but I might not live if I don't do this. And anyway, I had great improvement, but I still couldn't get back into the normal range with my liver function tests. Mm-hmm. So I just started my own researching. This is before paleo was popular, or I had never heard of it. And just researching, I'm not just going to cut out glutinous grains. I mean, I'd gone to every Asian store, Indian store, trying to find flours that didn't have gluten in them, just so that I could make things. I had nothing to follow. There was no wheat-free books available. There was nothing. So I had to experiment myself. But then when I started researching, I started seeing, no, cut out all grains, not just gluten grains. Do this, do that. And I started reading more things. And I actually, about 11 months after, I was in the normal readings for the liver function test. And that was it was actually for me a very emotional time. Absolutely. That I'd actually achieved that. And then after that, it started coming out, the paleo diet, and it started becoming popular. And then I realized that's what I've been doing. That's how I had healed. Doing that.
I'm all over that. And
I've got that. I didn't even know what happened.
I love it.
So a lot of people during that time had started approaching me and said, look, a friend told me that you reversed your fatty liver disease. And I've been to the doctor and I've got fatty liver disease, but they don't know what to do about it. He just shrugged his shoulders and told me I had it, but didn't tell me how to fix it, because he doesn't know how to fix it. And there's no drugs to fix it.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so people just started connecting with me. And I said, look, I've had to rethink my food and rewrite recipes. I had paper everywhere. And I said, would you like help? And because, want to help people. Yeah. It's just a natural thing that you want to do that when you're passionate about something.
Absolutely.
So I started giving out my recipes, emailing them to people. I typed them all out, and some friends I'd drop in, I'd take them samples so they could taste them, and then they'd say, oh, yeah, I want that recipe. And that's kind of how it started. That I was doing that for probably 18 months until one of my friends said to me, so I have all of these papers of your recipes. Can you put them in something for me? Like, can't you put them in a book or something? And I kind of thought, well, that's a bit rude. I'm doing all this work.
Oh, really? I love it. How rude.
So anyway, it was kind of funny. And then I eventually retired from a lot of things happened. Stress was affecting me. I then Hashimotos, and a thyroid autoimmune disease. And a lot of that, I think, was brought on by stress with my job. Okay. And I'm just like, right, it's time to stop. I stopped working, and yeah, people just started saying, you're going to do that book now. And I thought, oh, my husband, I'll drive him crazy. I already do with it, talking about food. So, then he actually encouraged me, which was amazing. And so then I went on the journey to try and find a publisher. I've never published a book. What do I do? And then I did a bit of research, and here in Perth, it's way too expensive. I would have had to have mortgaged our whole house.
Really?
To have got somebody to publish it for me. So then I went researching again, and I wasn't going to give up. I thought, there's got to be a way to do this. And then I discovered that you could self-publish. And it would cost a little bit more for people to buy your book because they actually print it as you order it, so that there's no stockpile that would cost and so on. So then I went down that journey. But then that actually took about 18 months to totally complete the book, because I started typing my recipes for them and photographing them, borrowed my son's camera, had no idea how to take a photo.
Really good.
But when people said, well, why aren't you going to get someone to take your photos? But if you've gone through a health journey and you've come out of it well, and this is such a personal thing, creating those recipes, I needed to write it, I needed to photograph it, I needed to even do the cover. It all had to be by me. It was my story, and I also think that probably was a part of my healing and just moving on also, I feel, looking back on it. But it wasn't smooth going. It was a really, really stressful thing doing it because I'd never done it before. And this company, even though they were based in Sydney, their head office was in the US, and I was dealing by email with people in the US, and they couldn't understand exactly, I wanted it like this. They'd send it back a proof. That's not how I told you. I knew in my mind how I wanted my book to be. And so I didn't give up until they did what I wanted. But I just needed it to share with people. There were so many people out there that needed help, and I'd already gone through it. Let me make it easier for them. Yes. Was sort of that really was what was on my mind. But it wasn't easy going, because during that time, my mother-in-law, I took over full-time care of her. She got lung cancer, and I would cook for her and dress her and shower her. And then I had a brother-in-law, had 2 toes amputated through diabetes, and I nursed him for 7 weeks while I was photographing. And a daughter-in-law went into hospital. I had my grandchildren because my son was away, and there was just like so many people during that time. And then my book actually, my mother-in-law passed away, and she missed seeing the finished product. And that was very sad for me because she enjoyed the taste testing. I bet she always had this saying, I have no idea what you cooked for me tonight. And I thought, oh, no, she's going to complain. And she goes, oh, it was so delicious. And this little phrase she would say, and she missed seeing my book published, by a couple of months. And then my brother-in-law passed away 4 months after her. And my book then came out, and 8 weeks after my book, I had a massive heart attack.
Oh my goodness.
So yes. It was horrific. And it was, and that was stress. And that's one thing that I like to bring out to people. We can look after our body with food, but we also have to look out for what we take on.
Yes.
I didn't have any choice at the time. People needed me. But because I was also doing the book and editing at night, because I'd already started that and I didn't want to stop that, I wasn't as kind to myself as I should have been. But I have never said publicly anywhere that I actually had the heart attack because I was so embarrassed. Here I am. I have a cookbook just come out.
Yes.
I have all of these recipes for a healthy life, and look what I did. But then on the other hand, it's amazing for me to have had an angiogram and rush me in and everything they did, and they get inside and they're going, oh my goodness, this woman has 0 calcium. There's nothing built up in her arteries. There's absolutely nothing.
Wow.
I had coronary artery spasms. So my heart muscles closed over.
Okay.
So they actually went into shock, and they squeezed and closed my blood vessels up, and there was no blood to the heart, which caused the heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my warning, slow down. So take time for yourself. But when the cardiologist sees the results and they're going, what? I wish I had that on a piece of paper. That's like gold to have on a piece of paper. You have 0 calcium, 0 buildup. You've got these perfect arteries. And he said, and look at you, look at your age. And I said, I eat a paleo lifestyle. And he goes, well, don't change how you eat.
Yes.
And this is a cardiologist
Keep doing
in the
what you're
hospital.
doing. Wow, that's a real achievement. And you know what? So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I know exactly what you mean about, because, I'm putting out my message and sort of saying, look at me, do what I do kind of thing. And so you do feel like you've kind of got to be this perfect example, but the reality is that perfection's just a myth. And I think it's great that you've shared that, because yes, it does start with food, and you can transform a hell of a lot just by ditching the grains and the dairy and the refined sugars. But it doesn't just stop there, does it? There's no point just eating this amazing paleo diet if you're under a lot of stress, if your sleep's terrible, if you're doing a job that doesn't align with your passion, all of these different factors. It's got to be the whole thing, doesn't it? Not just the one part.
Yes, the whole package. Yes, because food plays such a big part, and of course it did. When they saw inside my arteries, we had proof. But the things on the outside were still affecting me, and I had to then look at the blessing. Look, and then my heart healed. There's no evidence now that I even had a heart attack, because my body could mend itself because I had it. I was feeding it correctly, but I just didn't need that stress.
That's right. And it's like, when you get into those, and we're all in these chronic stress patterns, and like you were working really hard in your chiropractic job and managing 2 clinics, and very stressful, and then you retire. We sometimes repeat the same kind of habits, so then you had lots of pressure on you, and you were still lots of stress, even though you had retired. And it's just, I think it's what's happened to you. And I think it's beautiful. It's like, it's just your message. Like you say, it was a blessing. It was like a message. Your body was going, okay, look, Sue, if you're not going to chill out, we're going to make something happen. So you pay attention. So tell us what you've done, because stress is like a biggie, right? We're all, maxed out one way or another. And even like, it sounds so lovely and romantic to make a cookbook, but even that, like you say, in itself is really stressful. Yes. And even just from the levels of the actual administration of it and doing it and liaising with the different people that you need to deal with, but also all of the personal issues that come up when you're putting your baby out there in the world, right? It's huge. Like, I totally know what it feels like. So can you talk us through what you've done now, Sue, to manage the stress?
I'm making sure I'm going to bed early. I've changed my sleeping because, of course, when I was caring for the other family members, when I was editing, getting emails back from the publisher, I wasn't up to 1, 2 o'clock doing the editing because during the day I was caring for them. And in between, I was taking food photos.
And making all the food.
Now, making all the food. I had to make it to photograph. But then I did have plenty to feed them. Going to bed. I try now to, get ready for bed at 9:30. So that's a big for me because normally, even on a normal night, it would be 11. But of course, when I was doing the book, it was much later. So that's a big change, is getting more sleep. I've stopped putting the alarm on in the morning. Now, a lot of people, they have to. They've got to get up and go to work. I work from home, so I can change things around. But I've had to do things that would help me. And I've got great daughter-in-laws, and they just watch me all the time. Sunday is always family lunch, everybody over. And then they started stopping me, right. So we're still having family lunch, but let's just do salads and let's just get the guys throwing meat on the barbecue. Let's not you just cook a big meal.
Much less stress.
So they started, much less stress. And sometimes I'll say, if you don't get time to make food on Saturday for Sunday, just tell us. We'll pick up a couple of cooked chickens on our way to your place. And they've just made me chill that bit there, which that'd been great.
And there's that element, isn't there, of relinquishing some of the control, because I don't know, I think you and I are quite similar, but I kind of wanted to make everything because I wanted it to be really perfect, perfect from a paleo perspective, but also because I wanted to it was kind of like a love language, really. I want to make this for you, to show you, and I've totally got this and I can handle it. So it takes a lot. It's not just a case of, oh, thanks for your help. It takes a lot to relinquish that tight hold on everything, doesn't it?
Yes. And I think also being the mother-in-law, the person caring for everyone, I tend to want to think about their needs before they even know their needs. Because my daughter-in-laws will say, how did you know I needed that? You just went and bought that for me. I said, because I knew you would need it in a couple of days. They go, but I didn't even know I would. And they said, make your mind stop thinking, because I'm always preparing. It's just a thing about me. I'm always preparing and thinking of what's going to be needed. Let's get it organized early so that there's no stress at the time. But I'm probably getting it organized.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
But it's really letting go also with a few things around the house. I like the house to be tidy and things. And so I try not to be quite as a perfectionist. That's helped a little bit. And if no one's coming and I'm going to have a busy day cooking in the kitchen for, testing, if I don't make my bed now, I don't stress. I would never have a day without making my bed. And now I'm like, well, no one's going to be here. No one's even going to see that room. So let's get on with what I want to achieve today. And, and that's just totally not me, but I'm actually letting go of some things that I felt were so important, but it's not that important. I guess, but it's really just slowing down. Just not trying to be me for everybody.
Yes, it's good. And boundaries are good to have. Look, I'm prepared to do this much, but it just gets into that. I talk about this quite a lot. We serve, we serve our communities, we're serving our families, and then there's service, and then there's martyrdom. And as women, we just sometimes it's too much of a blurry line, and almost like the more stressed and overwhelmed you get, the more you do, and it's just like this vicious cycle of and then it just leads to a heart attack in your case, but it doesn't always have to be quite as extreme. So just to just to slightly go back in time. Now, fatty liver disease, I haven't really heard a great deal about it, and I would just like you to run us through some of the symptoms of it, because it's something that I just associated with alcoholism, which is obviously not true because you don't drink.
No,
at all.
Totally true. Yeah.
So tell
a lot of people.
You said scratchy skin, but what else does it involve?
I was itchy, so my thighs I'd be scratching. So let's just say if I had in the old days, let's say if I had a tablet that might be, I don't know, could be for anything, what normal people might have, an antihistamine tablet or something like that. So if I put some medication through my liver, I would notice that I would start getting itchy in my thighs. I'd start scratching. And it started to realise to me after I knew that I had fatty liver disease, something's affecting my liver. It's just one of those things that I started noticing. And on my wrist, I seemed to get a little spot that would be itchy. And then I would go and get my liver tested, and I said, I think it's playing up. And they said, yeah, it's terrible. But it's actually called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is actually the proper name of it. Now, how it is caused is through having too many carbohydrates.
Right.
So if you're having a high carbohydrate diet, which you would be having because you're eating low fat, as I was, you know what I mean? Like I was eating low fat all that time. So it makes a very high carbohydrate diet. And carbohydrates, sugar, they actually turn to fat in the liver. And so that fat just builds up and causes scar tissue. It stops your liver from functioning properly. It makes you put on weight because your liver isn't, the toxins aren't being able to be filtered.
Yeah.
So it's all from a high carbohydrate diet, refined sugars. That is just where it comes from. Yeah.
So
and of course other people will get it.
It's so interesting, and it's funny when you start to join the dots, and now you've told me that when I had my health crisis, one of my symptoms was estrogen dominance, and that presented in things like really bad PMS, really sore boobs before a period, and really heavy periods. Won't go into too much detail, but really heavy periods. And so this was because I had build-up of estrogen in my body, and since I've gone paleo, my periods are like they were when I was a teenager. You know, there's like, nothing, there's my period, no dramas, and no boob pain and all of that kind of thing. And that's because I've managed to process the estrogen through my liver. I think it's the phase 2 detox, but it might not be because I'm not a naturopath. But that's so interesting. So, like that could just be from a sluggish liver from eating all of those carbohydrates, right?
Yes, that's right. And so much fat had built up around my liver. And of course, it can be quite tender. It can also then cause gallbladder problems, all connected. So a lot of people that can have a gallbladder attack can actually they also have fatty liver disease. They just go hand in hand.
Wow.
So moving all those carbohydrates. I mean, I still have carbohydrates, and as women, we need carbohydrate for our hormones, to produce our hormones, but we need the carbohydrates like, only like half a cup of sweet potato, some carrots, green leafy vegetables. They all have carbohydrates in them, and that's the carbohydrates that we want. And men can go lower than women, but we need them for our hormones, and especially for your thyroid, so I've got to make sure that I do have some carbohydrate, but the right form of carbohydrate.
From whole foods as opposed to processed carbohydrates. Yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't think, do they? When they think about carbs, they think about bread, pasta, rice. But there's, like you said, there's carbohydrates in all fruits and vegetables. And so if you're eating from, the primal spectrum, you'll get ample carbs, right? You don't need to supplement.
Correct.
Because there's no nutrition in bread that you can't find in any other plants and animals, is there?
That's correct. That's correct. And we find so much more nutrition in those foods that are going to replace the bread, the carbohydrate in the bread. We get so much more in that package. It's like a whole package where the slice of bread might just give us
brain fog.
A little bit.
And everything else that goes with it.
Yeah.
So talk us back about the Hashimoto. So when did you get that diagnosis, Sue?
That was diagnosed about 12 months before I actually retired. I was actually running a clinic with the principal. The owner was overseas for 6 months, and I had locums in. I had organising all different practitioners, and it was a very, very stressful time. And during that 6 months he was overseas, I thought I had a virus. I couldn't go to work. I was in bed. Everything ached all over. I felt ill, and but I needed to work. So I had a couple of days off, and then I would crawl out of bed, and I'd go and could sort of do half a day at work. I was just aching. I was so tired. Just the fact of getting out of bed and showering and driving to work. By the time I got halfway to work, I'm driving. That was enough. That was enough energy. I was ready to go to bed. And so after 5 weeks of feeling like this, I actually went to my GP and I said, I've had this virus for 5 weeks. I said, I really need you to check me. And he goes, you cannot have a virus for 5 weeks. I go, oh, all right. Okay. So he did some blood tests. And then I got a phone call, quick, get in here. And he says, you've got thyroid disease. And he said, that's why you feel so sick. And so I started on thyroxine, which that's probably the only medication that GPs give you. But it actually took months and months to start to feel better. It was very slow. It was slow. And then I just decided later, I think it's just time to retire. It's just too many things happening with my body. It's just time. And the great thing is the doctor I was seeing for my liver, the more natural doctor, he then put me on a natural thyroid, a compound pharmacy did. And I felt better with that because I wasn't quite producing. Thyroxine is T4, but we had to convert it to T3 to use it. And I wasn't converting it properly. And so getting a proper natural mix was much better for me. So I do really, really well with my thyroid. I take my tablet every day. If I overdo it, I will find I will get a little sore and tired and, that kind of bone tired.
Yes.
And that's a warning for me, you're doing too much. So in actual fact, that picks me up before I get too far.
You're listening to your body, aren't you? Really tuning in. And
I really can now. I can work out what's going on.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So then that's my little reminder. Slow down. If you don't slow down, you'll get the bigger reminder down the track. So you've had your message and you are listening loud and clear. I love that, Sue.
Yes. So let's talk about how things have changed because, you've talked about being absolutely, exhausted and itchy and all of the other symptoms that you've mentioned. But looking at you now, you're like the picture of health. You're bubbly, you're vibrant, clear-skinned. I can't believe you're 62. Like, you don't have a wrinkle on your face.
Oh, well, laughing ones.
Those ones are good. The laughing ones are good. And you've obviously got loads of energy. You're passionate. You're just amazing. So how is that different to how Sue was before? Have you always been this bubbly, vibrant person or?
Yes, I've always been a bit noisy. And I've always liked to do lots and achieve lots but I would get worn out previously, yes. Where now, I get my little signals when I've done too much, but I think when you're so passionate about eating healthy, and I'm so passionate about making things easy for people. I don't want people to have the same journey as I had. That's hard work, and trying to create food that your family would eat. That's hard work for people. I want to be able to help them in that way. But I just think now there's no itchies. There's no, I don't know. I feel great.
That's amazing.
I actually don't know. Yeah.
So
why? I mean, I do know why.
It's really,
sorry.
It's so inspiring, and I'm just going to talk about your cookbook again, just in case nobody saw. Sorry, before, this is the cookbook. It's so good. And look how thick it is. It's like 150 recipes in here. And the thing I love the most about your book, Sue, is like when you open it up, it's like a normal recipe book. Like in England, we have a WI, Women's Institute. And over here you have CWA, Country Women's of Australia,
yes.
I think. And it's like normal foods like pies and cakes and you know, pancakes and all those sorts of things that you know, you wouldn't know if you cooked something out of your book. You wouldn't know it was paleo, right? You've just given us an alternative for absolutely everything, and you've used a lot less refined sugar. Well, there's no refined sugar, but there's like maple. Like I made your pancakes on Saturday, and we made 12 pancakes. There's like a tablespoon of maple syrup over the 12 pancakes. Well, that's not going to cause an insulin response at breakfast. Do you know what I mean?
No, and it's not going to. Yes.
Yeah, and full of good fats from the almonds and all that kind of thing. And I just really I love your book because a lot of people that I speak to say that it's just paleo's like it's so hard, you know, and they even like sabotage themselves before they start because they say, oh well, you know, I'm never going to get the kids on board eating broths and liver and you know that kind of thing. And or the husband's not going to like it either, but your book makes it totally doable, doesn't it?
It does. I think women who have young children and say they're already paleo, they bring them up in their home right from birth, that's easy. You know, you might have when they get to school a bit of conflict because of what other children are bringing, but you can, you know, they're actually used to eating a whole food diet, your children. But I had sons, I had daughter-in-laws, I had grandchildren, I had a husband, and they had all these years of eating, you know, our normal standard diet that we have in Australia. And I had one son still at home. He was in his mid-20s, who's now just had their first baby. Who's married.
Literally just this week, isn't it?
Yes, this week. Yes, 3 days old. So I had all of them here for meals, everybody, and I was cooking two different things.
Oh, okay.
And I need them to be healthy too. I'm healing my liver, but okay, I needed to do that. But what about them? So they would turn their nose up at things, but I didn't tell them. I started creating things that looked like their normal food and put it on the table. And lots of times they're just going, oh, yum, this is delicious. What did you change in this? And a lot of my soups, they started saying this. And I said, well, actually, this one's going in my cookbook. You know, little things because I was storing up recipes and they knew I was going to do that. And, they would just go, oh, wow, I like this. And they all make my naan bread at home whenever they make all of my daughter-in-laws make my Indian butter chicken, the green Thai curries.
We had that last night. Very good.
Good. And I just enjoyed watching them actually start to enjoy healthy food. And that's what that was all about. They already had for all their life, they were all in their 20s and 30s, my kids and daughter-in-laws. And then I had grandchildren. And my granddaughter was my biggest critic.
They don't hold back.
So they don't hold back. So I had to produce what they were going to eat. And so I had to work hard.
Yeah.
So, and that's what's resulted in the book, because I want to help people that think you can't have normal food. All that food in there is like normal food, just healthier.
Yes, just paleo-fied. So it's just like normal stuff that we've all been brought up on, but it's just paleo-fied. So, you know, and I think that's great because a lot of the cookbooks out there, like there's like loads of amazing cookbooks out there, but some of them you open up and it's like all these strange ingredients, you know, like pomegranate molasses. My mum was complaining the other day, where would I find that in England, you know, and galangal and all of these, like, you know, like 11 billion ingredients. And it's like, and what I loved as well about your Thai curry is, you know, it's Monday night, I've got literally 15 minutes to make dinner,
and it's okay to use a curry paste from a jar. And you even recommend a brand that you use. I'm like, oh, thank God. Thanks for like making it so doable, because maybe on a Saturday you might want to grind some spices in your pestle and mortar and grate your galangal.
But not on Monday.
But on a Monday night you can't be bothered. You just want to like knock up something quickly that everyone's going to eat. And I actually made a kilo of it with the plan to have leftovers and maybe another meal in another week, but it all got eaten. Like, I think my kids must be having a growth.
Well, that's great.
Crazy.
That's great news.
It's crazy. So thank you.
Yeah.
But for people who are thinking about, or people who are like thinking about starting paleo, or they've got a few, they think it might be too hard, what advice do you have for them, Sue?
My advice is small steps. I had to go full, hardcore because it was life-threatening. So I couldn't function without a liver. So it was hardcore. I had to really, really work hard. If I had the choice, I would have done small steps. First things would be cut out the gluten grains and cut out the sugar. And wheat, of course. So anything with gluten in and anything with refined sugars in. Those two things, just cut them out first, the most important things. Once you master that, once you get used to eating without them in there and you find alternatives that will help you, you've achieved that. It's like, look, give yourself a big kiss. A big tick. That's a big step.
Absolutely.
Then start looking at taking out the legumes. But even though I'm saying taking those things out, you might think, I can't take them out. But you're going to be replacing them with other things.
Yes.
And those things you're going to get used to. So you're going to be replacing with lots and lots of different things, lots more vegetables. You need to think of one thing that gets me a bit upset about people saying paleo, they keep saying caveman, meat. And really it should be a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
So, the plate should be about 2/3 of vegetables, salads, vegetables, and then about 1/3 of protein. And don't forget the fish. I know it's hard to get fish that isn't wild caught, but we still can get it in Perth. I bought a lovely piece on Saturday and made fish fingers.
Yum.
Yeah, so
we're having fish cakes.
So
that's another one that's totally. You've got a great Thai fish cake recipe in your book too. But the fish cakes are so family friendly, and you can squeeze loads. I normally put in loads of extra veggies in there and handfuls of spinach and blah, 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 mix it all up, and they're just getting patties. They think it's great.
Yes. People just need to get creative and they also need to stop thinking about what they're not having.
Yes.
One of my biggest things when I actually got Sandra Cabot's book and I read, I can't have this. The first month was the hardest. I'm thinking, I can't have that, I can't have that, and I can't have that. That just was my negative mind until I actually, a few weeks into it, started thinking, oh, I can have this. Start thinking about what you can have. I can have this, I can have that, I can have this. Do a massive big list and look at it. Wow, look at all the things I can actually eat.
Yes.
And those things are going to make me healthy. You just take away that, no, I can't bit, and yes, I can.
Because it's human nature, isn't it? It's human nature. As soon as you say, you can't have this, it's just human nature to go, I want that. I can't stop thinking about that. I want it. Whereas when you realize that you can, you can make anything from, I was put it down to meat, fish, fowl, eggs, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, fats and oils. You can make anything conventional out of those ingredients, can't you?
Correct. That's correct. And I had to get really creative because I wanted to feed all these growing and little people that were used to this Western diet. But they've been healthy. But I just want people just to realize not to think that you're giving up these things. Think about what you're adding in. Yeah. Think about what you're getting. Think about your health. Think about your skin. And not just yourself, but think about your family, your children, your grandchildren. You're giving them a great start. And I don't know if you read in the front of my book, I dedicated a book. I want my grandchildren to have these principles in their life. So as they grow up, they teach their children how to eat properly whole food, not this garbage that we've been fed, that we've had to cope with, and realise it's only been a few years that breakfast came in a box. Breakfast was never in a box. It was leftovers from the night before's meal, or it was soup, or it was eggs. It never came in a box, a cardboard box. No. I mean, it's cardboard inside. Cardboard,
Yes.
So we've had a generation that has just thought that was breakfast, but that's not breakfast. No. It's cardboard. Yeah, it is. So I want my grandchildren to be able to pass on these healthier choices and the message about real food, and their children will be healthier, and then other people that they come in contact will be healthier, and we'll have a much healthier society. Mm-hmm. There won't be as many illnesses. We'll be, much healthier country.
Yeah,
I love that's my desire, for it just to become natural.
And what a great contribution you've made to that by giving us this cookbook, because I would really recommend it to anybody who is thinking about starting out or finding it difficult to keep up with the fancy pants cookbooks, just to really get something that, you could find something for every night of the week and every occasion in there. So thank you for that. Now, getting on to that, tell me, so you really followed your big dream, and a lot of people talk about, I want to write a cookbook, I want to write a book, but never get around to it. And you followed your big dream and you bloody did it. And so well done to you.
Thank you.
My next question is, have you got any advice? I know there's a lot of people, they get on a paleo journey and it kind of transforms their life, and this little dream or this little passion pops out, and then they're kind of like scared to sort of do it. But do you have any advice to anyone who wants to follow their big dream like you did?
I had a lot of people saying, no, you can't do it. How are you going to do it? It costs too much money. When I went to see this one publisher down in Fremantle, and I was so devastated with the cost it was going to be, and I called in to see my mother. She's 88 now. And I said, oh, Mum, I won't be able to do that with her, because of this cost. And so my mum goes, oh, good, that means you're not going to do it. She goes, oh, good, so you're not going to do it. Yeah. And I said, no, I didn't mean I wasn't going to do it. I'm just not going to do it with them. And she goes, oh, but I think that's a mother thing. She's thinking, will it be too much for me? And also, I look at the bigger, and I came home and I told my husband, and he said, well, that's not the only person. Let's do a bit more investigating, a bit more research and looking online, and then saw I could self-publish, and that was going to be much cheaper. So I wanted to do it. There were so many people out there that needed this, and it was part of me, and it was my love in a way to other people. Just passing on my love, and I think I needed that to finish my healing journey of everything I'd gone through. But then, of course, another journey started with getting sick and everything afterwards. But I think people need to follow their dream. I think you don't feel fulfilled if you've got this yearning inside you. I just challenge people to don't give up. When it starts to get a little bit hard, okay, just step back a little bit, don't think about it for a couple of weeks, and then get back on it again. Start researching, start seeing what you can do. But don't think that the process is going to be a short process. It is going to be a long process, because this is so much that you've got to say, and so much, I thought it was going to be, I would do it in 6 months. I would have all of my Word documents of all my recipes typed up, all my photos done, the cover done, all the information beforehand. I thought I'd have that done in 6 months. It'd be printed, be out in 6 months, 18 months later. So that was also a learning curve to just keep going, because I had that dream. I'm glad I kept going. I could have stopped when my mother-in-law got ill, and I cared for her. Okay, but I just needed to do it. And I really encourage people, if you have got this dream, this desire you want to do, please just do it. It'll bring so much more out of you. You'll feel more accomplished, more complete. And also, I think you get that satisfaction of also being able to help other people.
Yes.
And I think, especially women, we do want to help people. That's just a natural desire. And you get that fulfillment of that pleasure of helping people.
Yeah. And I always No, it's beautiful. And I love what you've said there. You know, you've taken that passion, and it's that passion that's been like the fuel under your your willingness to persevere. And even though it's a bumpy road and it took longer than you thought it was going to take, you got the product out there. So like, major kudos to you. And I love that what you've thought about as well is not just you. And yes, it's been very cathartic for you and a big accomplishment and extremely fulfilling to bring your, book to the world. But you're also thinking about what's in it for them. Like, what's in it for mums like me who want to cook something quick on a Monday night when you've only got 15 minutes of time, So, and I always think when I'm talking to people about following their big dreams, think about what's in it for the people that you're serving. Really helps to pull you forward, doesn't it, Sue? Yeah.
Yes. Get your eyes off yourself.
Yeah. So you've got the book. You've told us about your website, susanjoyfultable.com. If people wanted to work with you or get more Sue in their life, is there a way that they can work with you?
Anybody, yeah. I mean, it's actually been quite a lonely journey for me because I didn't know anybody else really in the paleo field. I just went with my gut feeling. I just kept researching and I just did my passion. I just did it in the background. I was just at home. I was doing this. But there's many, many times I wish there was someone I could ask a question. I wish there was someone who'd already published a book that I could ask, what was tough about it? What should I watch out for? What questions should I ask? I didn't have that. And I didn't have any friends that ate paleo. I didn't, it was a very lonely journey, but I kept at it. It's what I wanted to do, so I did it. If no one's going to help me, that's okay. I will do it my way. So anybody is out there that actually needs help, it would just bless my heart to make their journey easier. If they had it, on my website, you can contact me through my email. Any questions. And I get a lot of people down south, Busselton, Bunbury, people emailing me saying, I heard you on the radio and I can't stick to my diet. I used to do different things like Weight Watchers and things like that. So I just need a bit of guidance. And so I just start emailing them and or messaging them and getting a friendship going. And one lady I did meal plans for several weeks. She just could not work out what to eat. Yeah. So I hand wrote on things and I photographed it with my phone and I would email them to her.
Gorgeous.
That saved time for me because I wasn't typing up this big thing, but I could help her. And I would give her recipes on my website or I'd tell her other things. And that's just something I enjoyed doing for her. She was stuck. And I've had other people contact me just through hearing me on the radio. And that's great. And it doesn't cost anything to me. It's just sharing, helping people get on track. So I would love to help anybody that's wanting to do something or they're stuck. I mean, that's what we need to do today. And it's not about money. Do I need to pay you to help me? I just think as a society, we need to be available for people.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, yes, I love it. I love seeing that passion come through. I love it. And yes, of course, you're on the radio. You did tell me that last week. Which station can people hear you on and what capacity? It's
98.5 FM, so it's Sunshine Radio. And it's every second Monday. So it'll be this next Monday coming up I'll be on. And it's after the 10 o'clock news. So it's the morning show with Mike. So that's quite funny how that came about. 98.5 had advertised that they'd like some bloggers on their website. And they just kept advertising it. And I thought, I might just apply and see if, So I sent in my details and I was contacted straight away. And they said, because I'm thinking, here's something else I can help, you see. And it was just voluntary work. You don't get paid to go on there. And so I got an email and they'd gone and looked on my website and they said, we've chosen 12 people to help us with our social media on our website. And we've chosen you as one with health and healthy food. And so I had to do a contract with them and they can use things that are on my website and put it into theirs. But then the next week I got a phone call from the morning show producer and he said, so would you come down and meet me and stuff? And I'm going, yeah, like what? He goes, I'd like you to go on my show. I'm going, I'm not sure I could actually go on the radio. So please come down. So I went down and I took my book and we got talking for ages. And he goes, I want you on once a week. I said, look, let's just start. I'll do it fortnightly. I don't think, here's me again, I'm like, I know that would put pressure on me.
Yes.
I'm trying to, Yeah, good so that was a good girl. Yeah. Good choice. So I said, slightly. So then I started, so I write a blog about what I'm talking about that morning. So then they use that on their social media and on their Facebook. So I found out I'm doing the two jobs they asked me, the blog and talking on the radio, but I put it together in one thing. So when I'm talking with Mike about a particular thing, I can then direct people to that blog on their website to get more information or to get more recipes or share them recipes. So I might talk about let's just say I was talking about cinnamon, which I did a few weeks back. And so then I will put on in the blog recipes that would use the cinnamon for them. And so then we can direct them to the blog. So that has been so much fun. So it's been 12 months I've been doing that now.
Wow.
And
famous.
Totally love it.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
You just hear your voice.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So if you want to hang out with Sue as well, I know at the beginning of the interview I mentioned the Paleo in Perth community, but I also have the Primal Alternative community, which is a smaller group, about 500 people, and that's a really cool place if you are new to paleo or you want to come in and ask Sue questions as well. Another place to find her, or ask anybody, any 500 of us, a question. We're all on this primal journey together and all there to support you and your journey too. So, Sue, thank you so much for being with me today. It's an absolute...
And Helen, thank you so much for all the work that you do. You're getting these things out, you're networking, trying to help people in all different areas, and that's just an absolute credit to you. I just love to come across other people that want to share this and want to help other people, because it's just great because we can resonate. We're just doing it because we want to help people.
Yeah, love it. I love
thank you.
You're so welcome, and I'm looking forward. I think the next time we're going to get to hang out, Sue, is going to be Joe Whitten from Quirky Cooking is coming to Perth, and we're definitely going to be there.
Yes.
Won't miss that.
Yes.
So I'll get to see you then, if not before. I might see you at a Pete Evans dinner at Heirloom or something like that, maybe in the meantime. But
I've never gone to his restaurant. I actually don't go and eat out.
You wouldn't need to when you cook like you do. That's awesome.
It's too expensive to eat.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again, Sue. It's been an absolute joy talking to you today.
Thanks, Helen. Thanks for all your love I could feel today.